A bright and cheerful morning to all my lovely students. Now, before starting the reading of the chapter, let us start with introduction. The Fun They Had is a very light story. It is set in the future. It will make all of you love school and miss school. The setting of the story is in the future, when perhaps there will be no school, no books. Now, how those students will miss going to school and will feel that their ancestors, that is the present generation, you all, had fun going to school, meeting and helping each other. In the end, we come to know that this is an imagination of a young girl named Margie, who comes to know that their ancestors used to go to school. All children used to study there together. She feels that they all had a lot of fun when they went to school. So, when we read the story, we feel that school life is very good and we are fortunate that we have real schools where we go meet friends and get a chance to study together. So now we are going to read and understand the chapter, The Fun They Had. I hope you are ready with your book and pencil in hand. Great. Open page number 5 of the book Beehive. So let's get started. Margie even wrote about it that night in her diary. One page on the page headed 17 May 2157. She wrote, "Today Tommy found a real book." Here headed means titled. Real book are the books which we are using nowadays. Margie is the main character of the story. She is a girl of 11 years of age. She writes a diary on the night of 17th May 2157. At that time, Margie writes an entry in her diary and she writes that Tommy found a real book. And she is feeling so strange because in her times, real books do not exist. They only have e-books, the virtual books. So, books in the format of print on paper are extinct. And so, Margie is astonished to see a real book. It was a very old book. Margie's grandfather once said that when he was a little boy, his grandfather told him that there was a time when all stories were printed on paper. Margie is reminded of her grandfather. He told her that his grandfather studied all the books that were printed on paper. So this kind of a book is historical or ancient for them, something which they cannot believe, they can't imagine. They turned the pages, which were yellow and crinkly, and it was awfully funny to read words that stood still instead of moving the way they were supposed to on a screen, you know. Now, here crinkly means with many folds or lines, something that is crushed. Awfully means very unpleasantly, very badly. Margie is talking about the book that Tommy had found. She says that the pages of the book had turned yellow and they had been crushed as it was very old. The children found it very funny to read the words which stood still. Now, what does it mean that words stood still? As the words were printed on the pages, they did not move. On the other hand, the books that Margie and Tommy read were online, e-books. So in the e-books, how it happens, the text keeps on moving as your screen moves, but it was different in the books printed on paper. Now next, And then, when they turned back to the page before, it had the same words on it, and that it had when they read it the first time. This was a very strange experience for these children. When you have a book which is printed on paper, whenever you flip the pages, you too get to see the same thing written on the pages. On the other hand, in an e-book, the text keeps on changing on the screen. The screen is same. You have the same screen in front of you, but the text keeps on changing. So whenever you go back, the text is different. "Gee," said Tommy, "what a waste. When you are through with the book, you just throw it away, I guess. Our television screen must have had 1,000,000 books on it, and it's good for plenty more. I would not throw it away." Now here "gee" means Tommy disliked the printed book. He said that it was a waste because he felt that whenever you complete reading a book, you have to throw it away. You cannot have some different story written on the same book. On the contrary, he felt that the computer screen was very good because the same screen had shown him many books and still he could read many more on it. He would not have to throw that screen away when once he had read a particular story. "Same with mine," said Margie. She was 11 and had not seen as many telebooks as Tommy had. He was 13. She said, "Where did you find it?" "In my house." He pointed without looking because he was busy reading in the attic. "What's it about?" "School." Margie agreed with Tommy's opinion. Margie was 11 years of age and she has not read as many books as Tommy had because Tommy was older to Margie. He was 13 years of age. Margie asked Tommy that where had he found the printed book. Tommy replied to Margie that he found the printed book in the storeroom of his house. That attic. Attic is a space just below the roof, used as a storeroom. He was so busy reading the book that he did not remove his glance from the book. Margie asked that what the book was about. Tommy replied that the book was about school, about going to school, about the life at school. Margie was scornful. "School? What's there to write about school? I hate school." Scornful means showing you think something is worthless. Show your dislike for something. Margie hated the word school, and so she said that what was there to write about it, and that an entire book had been written about school. Margie always hated school, but now she hated it even more. The mechanical teacher had been giving her test after test in geography, and she had been doing worse and worse until her mother had shaken her head sorrowfully and sent for the county inspector. Sorrowfully means sadly. What is Margie's school? Margie's school is a mechanical teacher. A mechanical teacher, that means the machine which teaches you and not that school where we all go. Now, why did Margie hate school? Margie's school was a virtual classroom. It was not a real school like we have today. So in the future, we are thinking that the schools will be virtual classrooms. There will be machines that will be teaching the children. Margie hated this machine because it was giving her so many tests in geography, which were very difficult for her, and she was performing very bad. Finally, her mother thought that there was something wrong with the machine, and so she had called the county inspector to check it. He was a round little man with a red face and a whole box of tools with dials and wires. He smiled at Margie and gave her an apple, then took the teacher apart. The county inspector came to check the mechanical teacher. He was a round little man and he had a red face. He was carrying a big box full of tools with dials and wires. So, this man opened the machine. He was there to repair the computer. Margie had hoped he would not know how to put it together again, but he knew how all right, and after an hour or so, there it was again, large and black and ugly, with a big screen on which all the lessons were shown and the questions were asked. Once he had opened the computer, Margie wished that he would be unable to close it back because she did not like the computer. She did not like to study from this teacher. But the man was an expert, and within an hour he had repaired the computer and had closed it and made it ready to teach. Margie gives a description of the computer. She feels that it is very huge. It is black in color and she dislikes its appearance. It has a big screen and all the lessons appear on the screen and many questions are asked on the same screen, which are difficult for Margie. That wasn't so bad, the part Margie hated. Most was the slot where she had to put homework and test papers. Now here slot means a given space, time or position. Margie hated this mechanical teacher the most because she had to submit her homework and test papers on to it. She always had to write them out in a punch code. They made her learn when she was 6 years old, and the mechanical teacher calculated the marks in no time. Margie had to write her homework and her test papers in a particular punch code, that is, a computing language. She had learned the language at the age of 6. The machine checked the papers and calculated her marks in a few seconds. The inspector had smiled after he was finished and patted Margie's head. He said to her mother, "It's not the little girl's fault, Mrs. Jones. I think the geography sector was geared a little too quick." Now here geared means adjusted to a particular standard or level. So the county inspector said that Margie was getting bad marks in geography because the machine was not working properly. It was geared to a higher level. Those things happen sometimes. I have slowed it up to an average 10-year-old level. Actually, the overall pattern of her progress is quite satisfactory, and he patted Margie's head again. He said that sometimes machines malfunctioned, and that is what had happened. He had slowed it down and set it to the pace of a learner of 10 years of age. He said that Margie was learning at a good pace. He again patted Margie's head in order to cheer her up. So now Margie was disappointed. She had been hoping they would take the teacher away altogether. They had once taken Tommy's teacher away for nearly a month because the history sector had blanked out completely. Blanked out here means it has been erased. Margie is reminded of the time when Tommy's mechanical teacher had been taken away for repair for almost 1 month, and he was enjoying his time as he didn't have any teacher. It had been taken away because the history sector of the machine that taught the history subject had been wiped out. So the mechanical teacher did not have any memory of it and had to be taken away for repair. So she said to Tommy, "Why would anyone write about school?" Now we know the reason for Margie's dislike for school. So she asked Tommy that why would anyone write about school? Thank you, students. I hope whatever we have done till now is clear to all of you. We will continue with the chapter in my next video lecture. Thank you and have a nice day.